Hi, I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections, and today I'm going to show you how to winterize your outside faucets. So if you live in a cold climate like Minnesota, you surely already know that you're supposed to winterize your outside faucets. It's a good idea to winterize your faucets whether they are frost-free or not, because sometimes it's really tough to tell if you have a frost-free faucet. Manufacturers have started making non-frost-free faucets that are indistinguishable from the frost-free type, save for the model number. You gotta actually look up the model number to know whether your faucet is frost-free or not. So my advice is winterize all of your faucets, even if you think they're frost-free. Just do it to be safe. Now, to do this, you're gonna wanna start by finding the shutoff valve for your outside faucet, parenthesis S, one or more faucets. Find the shutoff valve for your faucets. In Minnesota, we usually have those shutoff valves in the basement, and if it's an older home, you'll probably find the shutoff valve somewhere at the ceiling on the water pipe leading to the outside faucet. If you've got an unfinished basement, it should be a piece of cake to find that shutoff valve. If you have a finished basement, you're probably going to have some type of access panel near the outside wall close to your outside faucet. Not a guarantee, but that's how it's usually done. Now, if you have a newer home, you'll probably want to look in your utility room, probably somewhere close to the furnace and water heater. That's usually where they like to put these things. And you usually have a couple of shutoff valves fairly close to your water meter. That's what I happen to have at my own house, so that's what I'm going to demonstrate. You start by shutting off the water to the outside faucets. If you have a gate valve or a stop valve, it'll take you several hand movements to shut off all the water. Next, go to your outside faucet and open it up all the way. You'll see a little bit of water drain out. That's okay. That's normal. And the reason is that there's no air coming into the pipe to replace the water, so it's pretty tough to drain the water out. The trick is you got to go back inside, find your shutoff valve, and there's going to be a little screw cap on the outside of it. And the technical name for this, trivia time, this is called a petcock. You never need to know that again. But you unscrew that little cap, and then sometimes you got a little rubber plug that's going to get stuck inside there, like mine. Grab that rubber plug and pull it out. And depending on which way your pipe is pitched, you may have air enter that little hole so that water can drain out at the outside, or you might have air enter the outside faucet and then all the water is going to drain out of that little hole. I couldn't remember which way mine ended up going, so I had a rag kind of handy here, but you can hear as I pull that little plug out, the outside faucet is actually located lower than my shutoff valve, so what we're hearing now is air entering that little hole, and as soon as I pull the plug out, you're going to see a bunch of water draining out at the outside. Let's listen. Now that all the water is drained out, the only step I have left is to put that little cap back on the shutoff valve inside the house. In my case, I'm going to stick that little rubber plug inside the cap. That's the best way to get it back in place. Screw the cap back on so I don't lose it. And now I'm done. Some people will ask, well, what about shutting off the outside faucet? Should I do that too? My advice is no. Leave your outside faucet open. I used to say shut it, but I realized that if you have a very small leak at the inside valve and you have just a tiny trickle of water coming out, it might take a day or two for that water to rise all the way up my pipe, make its way over, and then come back down. But if I had my valve shut, eventually it could fill that whole pipe with water, and then I would unknowingly freeze my pipes. So my advice is leave it open, so if there is a problem, you're going to have water that's slowly dripping out, and it's going to let you know that you have a leak. So there really is no point in shutting off the outside valve. At this point, we're basically done. However, there's a couple of other small things to cover here. If you have a vacuum breaker on the outside of your faucet, my best advice would be to just remove the vacuum breaker if you can. But in most cases you can't, because external vacuum breakers usually have a method for a one-way installation. Basically, once you put it on, it's on for life, and you will destroy your faucet if you try to take it off. One of the more common ways of doing this is a little set screw on the side of the vacuum breaker. You tighten down this screw until it snaps off, and then it's considered permanently installed. And if you take a wrench and you really try to crank on that thing and try to get it off, you will destroy your outside faucet. However, there is a way of potentially getting it off, and it's a matter of getting that set screw out. All you do is you take a hacksaw, or maybe a power saw if you want, maybe a powered reciprocating saw, and you make a cut across the top of that set screw. You stick a slotted screwdriver in there, and then sometimes you can break them loose. I demonstrate that in this video here. It can be done. So ideally you take off your vacuum breaker, but if you can't, a lot of these vacuum breakers have a way to drain the extra water out. Some of them have a little black ring on the outside. All you do is you take that ring and you pull it down. That's going to drain the rest of the water out. And another style has a little white post on the inside, and you basically just stick your finger up there, you push that post to the side, and then a little bit of extra water will drain out of there. And doing this is going to help prevent water from freezing inside that vacuum breaker and destroying it. If that happens, you'll know it happened in the spring, because when you turn your water back on, your vacuum breaker is going to leak water all over. And then finally, last tip, if it's too late for you, I know I'm recording this video after snow has already fallen here in Minnesota. If it's too late for you, you forgot to do it, your faucet's frozen, it's not the end of the world, get a hairdryer or possibly a heat gun, but don't confuse the two. A heat gun is not a high-powered hairdryer. A heat gun can start fires. They get very hot. Take a heat gun or a hairdryer and use that to thaw out your outside faucet while the inside valve is still open. You want that inside valve open because you want to know when you're done thawing out your outside faucet. So keep that hairdryer or heat gun on your outside faucet for a while. Once you've had it warm enough to where you can open it all the way up, then you'll have a bunch of water coming out, shut it back off, and now winterize your faucet as I demonstrated earlier in the video. I think I've covered everything. That's all I can think of. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck taking care of this every single year as a Minnesota homeowner. Take care.